welcome to another episode of the IBC Guys. Today is a special day. So, Joe, you're familiar with baseball. I feel like I am the single A Connecticut Yard Goats, and then I'm working with the Cy Young winner who's going to the Hall of Fame in terms of IBC today. And you are shaking your head. So if you're listening to this, Joe probably did not like that introduction because as you will listen, Joe's a very humble person, but I'm just sharing from my perspective, Joe. So we'll leave it at that, and I will allow you to share your heart, and that's exactly why we're excited to have you on today, is because we want that heart to be shared for exactly what it is.
Yeah,
But let me do the introduction real quick, and I'm
yeah,
very
yeah,
excited to talk with you.
yeah.
The IBC guys exist for three reasons. First, we want to get as much information out as we can about the infinite banking concept. We're going to learn a lot today from Joe and his wisdom. But just to get people the understanding so they can make a decision for their family, yes or no, that's why we exist. Two is to give implementable and applicable examples. Um, just how can this be used? What does it look like in real life? And then the third reason is to get it out to as many people as we can. So Joe's famous. If you know Joe, like, subscribe, send it to whomever, the guy doing your yard. I say that because someone's running around with their yard stuff and my next door neighbors. So hopefully you can't hear on the podcast. But share it with him. You got somebody going around. Share the IBC guys podcast with them and help them understand what IBC is. So my email is Dave at familybankingsolutions.com. Mike's is Mike at familybankingsolutions.com. We have a phone number 507-205-2284. And if you want to give us a call, either Mike and I will answer that. If you shoot us a text, we'll answer it as well. So, Joe, that's my least favorite part of doing the podcast. So that is out of the way. The whole goal is to connect with people. Um, the logistics of it, it just seems like a hindrance. I'd rather just talk with somebody, get to know them, and get to know their lives, and then maybe talk a little IBC. But that's kind of the goal today, Joe, is to just get to know you a little bit, and then hear from your heart, and then we'll talk some IBC on the side as well. So you
Awesome.
are the founder and CEO of Alpha Omega Wealth. That's how I know you.
Yes, sir.
You've been doing this for a long time. So I'll just leave it at that. And then maybe if you would kind of give us an introduction to who you are and then maybe your journey in IBC, what that looks like and how you got to where you're at.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, good morning, Dave. Listen, I learned so much in your introduction, okay, because you made it very clear exactly what you're trying to accomplish. And for a guy whose mind is not totally organized all the time, I think it's important for us to let people know
Yeah.
why we're here, right? And that is so cool for a young man, a neophyte, right, in the
Yeah.
business, someone who
Yeah, that's
wants
true.
to learn, someone who wants to learn from others. And one of the smartest things you could do is learn about everybody else's mistakes, so that you don't have to make those mistakes. You can make new mistakes. The coolest thing about learning is you could draw on other people's mistakes. You don't have to get your nose bloodied by those mistakes because they've already been tried and failed. They've already
Yeah.
crashed and burned. So I've already crashed and burned 1,000 times. I don't need to crash and burn that way again, right?
Yeah.
I want to crash and burn new ways. But you're telling your audience we exist for three reasons in this perspective here. The IBC guys exist for three reasons. I think that's so cool. We want to get information out, right? We want to
Sir.
help people get realistic and practical on applying the things that they learn. Let me back up and reintroduce myself because I know there's some people who know me, and I'm very blessed that I met Nelson Nash in about 1999, right as his book was about to come out. And so I have the whole set,
Yes, sir.
I have the whole the first book, the first copy of Infinite Banking, which is a non-glossy
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of a cardboard looking
Yeah.
cover. And even his son-in-law David Stearns, who runs Infinite Banking, the Nelson Nash Institute, asked me, "Hey, do you have a copy of edition 4? Because I don't have edition 4
Collecting them, huh?
in our system here." I said, "Dude, I have edition 4 but I only have one, so I can't share it because I want to keep the whole
There you
set.
go. Yeah.
So I met Nelson in about 1999. I was already in the business for 24 years. So in terms of my current career, Nelson comprises half of my career. So the last 25 years, I've been learning from Nelson Nash. And when people ask me, wait a minute, you actually got to touch the hem of Nelson Nash's garment? Yes, I did. And I look back with so much affection and with a lot of regret because I say, oh, there was so much more water I could have drawn from that well if I had realized that our time was going to be so short because we only really had 20 years together and then we lost them 6 years ago, right? But the thing that people miss and the thing that I took 2 years to catch on was that when Nelson gives a truth, when Nelson shares one of his rules, right? For example, you need to rethink your thinking. The vast majority of people look at that and they say, yeah, I get it. I understand how to think, right? I'm a critical thinker, dude. I'm an analytical from the word go. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. You don't have a clue. You may be analytical as far as keeping your to-do list of your household stuff, your business stuff, keeping your friends on a list, keeping your birthday list together, organized. Organized is not the same as rethinking your thinking from a financial and wealth creating perspective. And what Nelson taught us continually, the thing I so much love about Nelson is he never changed his perspective on anything he ever taught us because he knew it was absolutely true because he had tested it in his life for 50 years before I met him. So when he says rethink your thinking, he's saying go back and look at the choices you've made that have gotten you to the point where you're at right today. And listen, don't spend any time crying over them, right? Because we've all made multiple mistakes and we learn from them. But how willing are you to go back and rethink your thinking and say, I will not make that mistake again? I failed to build up capital. I'm never going to make that mistake again. So there's so many things I learned from Nelson, and he turned my career upside down in the right way, in the good way. So I was already a quasi successful, thriving life insurance professional. I already owned multiple whole life policies before I met Nelson. Nelson expanded my thinking so that I could look at my cash values of my policy as my capital account. And he reformed my thinking to give myself permission to start contributing what some of my clients and some of my naysayer friends have called obscene amounts of premium into my life insurance policies. And I don't care what you call it. Call it jealousy, call it fear, call it criticism. If they can do better, fine. Go do better. I don't care. If somebody has a better system than infant banking, then go do it. See, because what they think of when they think of a better system is, well, I own crypto, dude. I own $15 million worth of crypto. I own 45 blocks of real estate in lower Manhattan. I'm collecting $80 million a day in rents. See, you've already rethought your thinking. You're already implementing things that Nelson taught us, which is understanding the purpose of capital and understanding that you don't keep capital locked up. You don't keep handcuffs on it. You make sure that your capital is cash flowing. It's creating more wealth so that you can do more good. For me, that's my bottom line. The purpose of capital is to do good. The more capital you have, the more good you can do. So I know you probably want to take me a breath, have me take a breath because I've only had one cup of coffee this morning and I'm ready to go.
Well, before
So,
we jumped on, Joe, I told you my goal was to sit back and listen. That was my goal.
well,
Um, But you've given me so many avenues to ask so many different questions,
Good,
but we only have
good,
40 minutes.
good.
So do you want me to jump into one of those, or do you want to? You kind of
Yeah,
gave us your
please. Yeah,
background
jump
and
in. Absolutely, jump in. Backgrounds.
well,
Listen, background is background, right?
you're a
I
pretty
was just
interesting
telling,
guy.
Dave before we got on. I'm about to start my 50th year in the business. What good does 50 years do if you're only repeating the same first year experience 50 times? It does no good. The only good that 50 years does is if it propels you to want to learn more, be more, study more, research more, serve more. If I could serve more people than I served last year, if I could be more effective with people, if I could give the message across more effectively, for me it's like the gospel, right? I have a Bible
Absolutely.
sitting over there, right? What good
Yep.
does it do me with the book closed? But if I go out and share it, then people will get the life-giving treasure of it, right? You have to share your knowledge. You have to share the treasure. That's the purpose of being here.
Oh, I love it. Again, we go down that rabbit trail, but what came to my mind was what is the biggest, so as we talk about IBC, because that's the purpose of this podcast, it's talking about the infinite banking concept. What are the biggest misconceptions in your anecdotal experience? So in other words, as you've kind of worked with clients, what are the biggest misconceptions they have about wealth building, insurance, legacy planning, really in totality, IBC, because that encompasses all those things. And then what do you do to help shape those misconceptions?
Wow, that's a beautiful question. Misconceptions. Almost everything that people think about their money is wrong.
Okay.
So, in no particular order,
Okay.
if I ask a given person out there, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if you could start saving 25% of your income into a capital account that you control that could start helping you buy a condo for rent or an apartment building or a fourplex or some cash flowing property? Wouldn't it be cool if you could do that?" And the first response out of their mouth is, "I can't do that." It's
Mhm.
first two words, "I can't." Well, I have all these obligations. I have all this debt. Somebody said, "I have all these stinking kids."
Yeah, I
Right?
can relate
A
to that right now.
blessing from God. I have all these kids. I owe all these things. I send my kids to private school. I have these car payments. I have these property payments. I'm I'm living from paycheck to paycheck. See, what they said was, I can't. I can't because I haven't rethought my thinking
Mm.
and I
Yeah.
haven't gone to the cure. I haven't gone to understand why I got in this position in the first place so that I can avoid continuing that same model, right? If you don't know why you got here and you think it's somebody else's fault and that you're obligated to them because you gave them permission to tap into your checking account, now you have all these people with hooks in you. And if you think that it's their fault and their problem, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Right? Here's another aspect. Somebody comes up to me at church and says, "Hey, I know you're the financial coach for our church. Let me grab you after church." Problem one, mistake number one. Let me grab you after church because I got a quick question. You know that when somebody says, "I have a quick question for you," they're lying,
It's an
right?
hour. Yeah.
Because they have a basket full of issues that they're bringing to the table, and they don't want counsel from me. They don't want wisdom. They don't want solutions. They don't want a real in-depth, profound analysis. They want an opinion from somebody who has supposedly some credentials and some experience. They want an opinion that they could take home, throw it into their little rock collection in their little leather pouch. "Hey, I got another opinion. That's great. Now I can go and justify the decision that I made last week."
Yeah.
And I can say, I ran his ideas and his wisdom that he gave to me in 3 minutes after church. I ran his ideas against my preconceived notions. And I've decided the way I'm going is the way I should go. Right. So what really happened? He didn't want my opinion. He didn't want my counsel. He just wants to collect a bunch of opinions and use them to justify what he's already decided to do, which is pretty much stay in the same rut. Right. So you're asking me what's what are some of the mistakes that people make? Preconceived notions. I wrote down on my pad here, capital.
Okay.
I mean, that's a really fancy word for saving or savings, right? And and we have been conditioned by the institutions whose objective it is to get our money. We've been conditioned by them to think that savings is the worst place where you should put your money. And I have to say, it depends. If your savings is sitting in a mattress, probably. If it's sitting long term in piles and piles and piles into savings accounts with a local commercial bank, there's probably a better thing you could do over time. But let me, before I even go past that point, if you've saved, let's say, $20,000 a year for the last 30 years, you've saved up $600,000 and you have no interest on it. I don't care, because you're a genius. Because you've beat what everybody else has done. You've beat Parkinson's law. You've gone against the grain. You have ignored the advice that other people are going to give you who have no money. And all they care about is wondering, how can I get where he's at? Oh no, you didn't get any rate of return. Your money wasn't credit protected. You didn't have a multiplicity of effectiveness. You weren't multitasking your money. Fine. How many people do you know with $500,000 in the bank? I'm not talking about your 401k. I'm not talking about that you lucked out and you have a bunch of equity in your house. I'm not talking about that. You made an intentional decision to save money over a period of time, and when you borrowed from that savings account, I use the word borrow intentionally, that when you paid it back, you paid yourself back with interest. Who does that? Nobody. Right? So when I say capital, I'm talking about capital from an entrepreneur's point of view, from an owner's point of view, from a business owner's point of view, right? Capital is the only way that we can control expenses, that we can make new investments, that we can open up new businesses. And so the biggest mistake people make is underplaying the importance and the value and the virtue of savings. Because, they look at it from their immediate gratification point of view. Well, I can't put it in savings because I don't get any rate of return. What do you care about rate of return on $5,000? Put $5,000 a week in savings. At the end of the year, let's talk about creating some additional benefits. Right? So you're coming to the table with preconceived notions. Our idea, Nelson's idea, is to really clean out the cobwebs and find out why you did, what you're going to do differently to go forward. And we're going to be able to help you understand the purpose of capital and the necessity that nothing happens in your business life or your financial life until you have gotten a hold of the need to increase, multiply, perpetuate, consistently fund your capital account. Now, should that capital account be all in a life insurance policy? For the most part, absolutely. Yeah. Right? But that's not what we're talking about. You're talking about preconceived notions, right? What are the missteps that people are making right out of the gate? They're undercapitalizing. Why do businesses fail? Undercapitalized. Why do individuals and families declare bankruptcy? Undercapitalized, overcommitted, right? So savings has to come first. I'll take a breath.
Well, I'm gonna reflect back. So I understand you keep referring to thinking about your thinking or rethinking your thinking. I understand that as metacognition is maybe the formal term. You're thinking about your own thinking. And what I'm hearing you say is first and foremost, that needs to be a priority. But first on that list, as you think about your thinking, is again, capital, fancy word for savings, Joe, is we need to take maybe a hard look in the mirror. And I say we, because I need to include myself in that. People on this podcast know very well we run a land business. we need to look at how we're capitalizing our business. And then at that point, IBC may come into the discussion as something that would be very beneficial to the next steps. But the metacognition, the thinking of thinking, needs to be first and foremost. And then 1A on that list in that metacognition is the capitalization of what you're working to do. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that correct?
Absolutely. You,
Okay.
you have to have the underpinnings first. You have to understand that everything that we do is based on our philosophy. Everything is based on our values. We make decisions and choices based on what we prefer to do. So when we talk about having someone come into the IBC community, having someone become a practitioner, a client practitioner, right? Using infinite banking as a thought process,
Sure.
right? We're saying this is when, as Nelson said, this is an advanced course on money. An advanced course on money presupposes that you already have your high school diploma where you learned the value of money management. That didn't happen. They taught us nothing in high school about money.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
That
that was
presupposes that you took an advanced course of some kind. You have a bachelor's in some kind of a money science, right? But that doesn't happen because most of my CPA contacts, God bless them, don't have any money,
well,
right?
that's fair.
Because they're historians. You can throw all your books together and your records and your P&L and your balance sheet, and I throw them at my CPA. My CPA does my tax returns, and my payroll company, a separate company, does my monthly reporting of my P&L. And I get a report every month, and I kind of focus on it every quarter. Oh yeah, my top line was higher last quarter than a year ago, but was my net higher? Did I control my expenses? So when Nelson says this is an advanced course on money, that presumes a lot. It
Yeah.
presumes you had a good foundation, right? So most MBAs that I know don't have a lot of money. Most CPAs that I know don't have a lot of money. Most engineers that I know who pride themselves on being analytical don't have a lot of money. Well, what's the key ingredient? What's the common factor here? Is that it's not the technical expertise. It's not being a math teacher, for example. It's not being an Einstein, a math genius, because math has very little to do with money, right? It's not being able to manipulate numbers. It has to do with controlling the human problems and the human conditions, again, that Nelson mentioned in his book. A luxury once enjoyed becomes a necessity, and work expenses rise to meet income. And so if I made $90,000 last year and I spent 110, I'm a poster child for the problem. And it's not people who are just at six figures, people who are mid six figures into seven figures of earnings that have the same exact problem. You know why? Because they're made of the same stuff. They're
Yeah.
made of flesh and blood. Their brains work the same. We always want more than we could possibly manage to accommodate and purchase today. And so what we do is we hypothecate our future earnings, right? We put our future earnings in jail. We put a lien on our future earnings. We put a mortgage on our future earnings and our kids' future earnings if something happens to us. And we say, yeah, I'll pay that. I'll use a short-term credit card. I'll get that car because that car is really those new Ford Explorers, I think it's Explorer, are just the Bronco. Oh my God.
Yeah.
They're so pretty. I don't know what they cost. 90,000, 100,000, but they're so pretty. And I'll be the only one to get that limited edition one that only one dealership only each
Yeah.
dealership only gets one. Right? I got to have that because that'll make me feel better about myself. Really?
Wow. You and I both
So,
know. Wow. Yeah.
yeah. So the thinking is the foundation of everything.
So what I'm again reflecting back. So someone who's listening to this, Joe, that doesn't have maybe the background that you do, um, what would you say? And I believe you've kind of already said it, but I want to try and make it implicitly clear to the listener. Someone who is just starting off, who's listened to the IBC guys because they love Mike Stevens and they're interested in what he has to say. What advice would you give them in starting off? We talked about the metacognition, we talked about capitalization. Is that where you would point, or do you have some other nuggets of wisdom that you could lend for someone who's starting off in IBC?
You have to be willing to pay attention. You have to be willing to have your mind changed. You have to look in the mirror and decide whether you really understand the word teachable.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? Are you teachable? Are you willing to have your mind changed? Are you willing to start capitalizing an account? I call it a life insurance policy. There's lots of ways to do infinite banking without life insurance. They're extremely ineffective and inefficient, but they're more efficient, way more efficient than doing nothing. Like
That's
that
fair.
person with a $500,000 in the bank earning nothing. Genius. Genius. If they never do anything else, God bless them, they're still a genius. They're still ahead of 99% of the population. But what we're talking about being practical. What can I do? Well, let's say you're married, you got kids. What can I do? Well, you need to be covered, right? You need to be protected. You need to
Yeah.
protect your income. You need to protect your future earnings. Something happens to you, your family is going to be at a financial loss. You need to have life insurance anyway. So why not look at a plan that accommodates your need for life insurance to a certain extent, maybe to a large extent, and also allows you to start building up a capital account that you could start using right away. And I talk about the levels of infinite banking. And the first level has to be savings, and it cannot be bypassed. Okay. You can't
Mhm.
go from having no money to making an investment in your friend's local partnership, buying real estate and buying a strip center with a 7-Eleven, a Starbucks, and a McDonald's. I think I'll just put money into that. Well, where'd you get the money from? It came from somewhere. Well, I'm going to borrow it. Okay. Wrong answer. You got to start with savings. You got to start building up capital, and you have to develop that habit into such a way that it becomes like breathing. It's not something you would ever not do. And then level two is recapturing debt. Yeah, I got some credit cards. They're kind of pesky, but I have them under control. I'm paying the minimum payments. No, no, no. They're charging you 10, 15, 20, 25, 30%. It's draining your value, right? It's draining value out of your net worth. You got to use your own system, not somebody else's bank. Use your own bank to start recapturing that debt. Get rid of the 15%, 25% credit card. Use a 4% policy loan that's interest only that you control, right? Basic steps, protect yourself, get insured, start saving, start recapturing debt, level two. Level three, expand out to start buying what you want to buy, what you want to build, what you want to create. You like land, you should buy more of it.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
like cash flowing real estate, rental real estate, you should buy more of it. We want you to buy more of it, not less. We're not competing. We're helping you build more.
Mhm. Yeah.
And your incomes from your cash flowing real estate is going to build wealth and help you buy more cash flowing real estate, which will create more income. So level three is buying cash flowing assets. And level four is creating generational wealth. And you may decide that charitable giving, churches, causes, missions, missionaries, 501c3s, however you decide where you ever want to do your good in community, you may decide that charitable giving should be part of generational wealth, because I want my kids to learn from me to that we're made rich in order to be generous.
It's well stated.
And we need to start off with generosity, not wait until we have some critical mass of dollars. You need to start being generous today. And if you don't have a generous heart, get on your knees and ask God why. There's no person on the planet that he created not to be generous. And nobody who has any moral character or courage would ever disagree with that statement.
I,
Okay.
I
So,
mean, yeah,
so you can say generational wealth is level 4 and charitable giving is level 5. Not that you wait forever to do that. I'm just saying that's how you can expand on the thought process of
yeah.
infinite banking. I don't know if that helps.
That is again the Cy Young winner, Joe, teaching the guy down in single A how to think. So yeah, it that certainly helps me in knowing it. It is a process. It is this is not a get rich quick scheme. That's something Mike and I try and reiterate over and over and over as we do this. It is a mindset and it is a system that allows you to build upon some solid foundational principles. That's the goal. So we have about 10 minutes left, Joe. I want to ask you, this is a broad question, but what, as we kind of end this episode, and maybe I can convince you to come back on because you got so much, so much that you could share with us. But as we end this particular episode, Joe, is there one thing that in our conversation that maybe you didn't get a chance to expand on that you would like to, or something to sign us off with to let people leave with a little nugget to think about? Is there anything that comes to mind as I give you that prompt?
Well, it's the thought processes that are leading you to say, I can't until, right?
Yeah,
I'm not ready yet. I have to get past this next hump. I got to finish this master's degree. I got to get this next promotion. Um, I have to come back from my honeymoon. I got to wait until my kids are out of school, like out of college, out of
mhm,
high school, until I can start seriously saving. Well, that's all faulty thinking, right?
yeah,
Because if you're honest with yourself and you look back at all the money that has slipped through your hands since you started working, it
yeah.
might be seven figures,
It's eye
right?
opening, sure. Yeah,
And if you say, well, what if instead of playing this game about I have to wait until, what if you rethought your thinking and said, you know what, if I just imposed upon myself a 10% pay cut in my present vocation, my present business, my present W-2 job. What if I walked into work on Monday morning and the boss says, I got bad news for everyone. Everyone's taking a 10% pay cut. You'd find a way to figure it out, right?
yeah. You'd
I
have
mean,
to.
and so if you give that 10% to your platinum partner, your hypothetical platinum partner who does nothing but hold your money, grow it a little bit, protect it, make it available to you, which is your capital account, your platinum partner, right? And giving as much respect to that platinum partner as you do to your family, because it is your family. You're saying we are going to capitalize first. We are going to put ourselves at the top of our creditor list. And most people will say, yeah, I get that. Well, you understand English and math. You understand the words that I just said. Are you doing
Yeah,
it? Right. What you call me being a smart guy or experienced guy or all this is just me being happy idiot with my wife and her and I being on the same page since 1988. And we said, we are never going to put anybody else ahead of ourselves. And I'm talking about on this earth because I'm a Christian. God comes
yes,
first.
sir.
I
Yeah,
give I give God a tenth of my gross earnings, and that's not even up for discussion. You can do it or not do it. But on this earth, my family is my number one creditor. And so imagine having your family's capital account so important that you paid it before you bought groceries, before you made your car payment, before you paid your mortgage. And I said to my wife early on, I don't care if you're late with the mortgage. And by the way, by God's grace, we have not ever been late on a mortgage payment to a mortgage company, right? I said, but if you have to be late on a mortgage versus paying my life insurance, you pay the life insurance. You capitalize our capital account, our family banking system, and the mortgage company will get paid. They're not going to
Hmm.
come knocking on my door because I'm a month late. They're not going to. You're late in the power bill, so they shut the lights off for 24 hours. It's not that I want the lights shut off. It's not that I don't want to honor my debts because that's a debt. It's that I want it to be so important that nothing comes in the way of capitalizing my capital account. It's obsessive. And I'll tell you something else and you already know this. Nobody is going to take care of you when you're 85 years old. You think the government might? Then take your chances, right?
Yeah.
You think your kids might take care of you? Do they have any money?
Yeah.
Right? If they have any money, it's because you're teaching them the right principles. So you're asking me for a final thought. I kind of don't have final thoughts. I just keep on blabbing and keep on expanding the ideas. But all these things now continue and spill over and graduate into business applications. If we start out with this foundation, this is how we run our family's finances. This is how we run our business. I've
Yeah.
got 50 employees, hypothetically, got 50 employees. One of those employees is somebody I pay six figure, let's say $100,000 a year to, and that employee is my capital, is my platinum partner. I pay
Yeah.
my platinum partner $100,000 a year. I don't pay that. I pay way more than that. And 10 years from now, that partner will come back and say, "Hey, you gave me 100,000 a year. I got $1 million here for you if you need it." It's the way you think. If it has to do with a financial decision, you think this way. Nobody gets around it. I don't take loans without paying them back.
Hmm.
I don't take the summer off without capitalizing. You become obsessive.
Well, what I'm hearing, Joe, and we'll wrap it up with this. I'm hearing discipline and priorities. Those two things. So maybe that's a good summation based on kind of what I'm hearing. But I need to send you like a Starbucks gift card or something to try and sway you to get back on the podcast.
A gift
So
card,
maybe,
huh?
well, I don't know. I have to figure something else out.
Joe,
Maybe I
just so you know, I would have to drive 35 miles to cash in my gift card because where I live,
okay.
we
Well,
have we
we'll
have no
figure out something.
Starbucks. I don't think we have a Starbucks in my county.
Oh wow.
I'm not sure, but nothing
Okay.
within 35 miles. But I love you, my brother, and
Okay.
that's what's important to me
Okay.
is that we work together, we share together, we share with our clients, we give, and we help people get in the place where but they can understand that they can afford to be generous today.
Well, I guess I want the listeners to know I'm doing everything I can to get you back on because I
Oh
feel
my
like
goodness.
there's so much untapped wisdom and knowledge. But that'll be another discussion another time off the air. Joe,
Yeah.
thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it. And again, if you're listening, give us a call, give us an email. Mike or I were happy to help. And send us some emails so I can forward them to Joe so we can convince him to get back
Send
on.
questions, send hard questions. Please send hard questions.
All right, well stated. All right, thanks again, Joe. I
All right.
appreciate it.
See you
Catch you next
again.
time.